Thanks to ButcherBox for supporting The Larry Miller Show. For $20 off your first box and 2 pounds of free ground beef in every box for the life of your subscription, go to butcherbox.com/Larry and enter Larry at checkout. This was ButcherBox's most popular offer last year, and they're bringing it back for a limited time only. And now, live from Level 5 Productions on the island of Milleronia, it's The Larry Miller Show. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and everyone who wants a happy anniversary. Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Larry Miller Show. I'm Larry Miller, but in a way, aren't we all? And boy, is it good to be back here on the mainland at stately Miller Manor. We are not on Milleronia this week, but I'm here with Colonel Jeff and one of our doggies. Ozzy is asleep in the other room there, here in the studio. And if you love how cute dogs are, and we do, and I do, there's nothing better than going in to just walking past him, even if you're just going to the bathroom, or especially if that. At any rate, though, it's good to be back at stately Miller Manor, and it's gorgeous here in Southern California, and the music, as always, makes me so happy. That's the Howard Stone Orchestra and the Cat Stone Dancers, featuring boy tenor Brad Simpson asking the musical question, what exactly are madcap antics and zany hijinks, and do any movies today feature them? No, Brad, and it's a real shame. That's a very good question. And you know what? I'm not what you know what I mean, folks, and you know what Brad means. Madcap antics. By the way, first of all, I don't even know what that means. Zany hijinks. We know what it means. A madcap, come to think of it. I'm just looking at the Colonel now. I'm not sure. I don't suppose I know what that is. A madcap, I think that's an old slang term for the kind of hat you'd wear in an asylum. Like well, I was going to say funny farm, but even that is not appropriate. But I mean, it's wouldn't that be it? A madcap, and that means you were well. They'd put one on you, and I'll bet it wasn't comfy. But in any case, what exactly are madcap antics and zany hijinks? Asks Brad, and to do any movies today feature them? And as I said, no, it's a terrible shame too, because you know what? The folks who did those really well were just wonderful. Come on. And in fact, the scene that came to my mind first, and Colonel Jeff as well, the Marx Brothers, for goodness sake, were always just, come on. If you need to define madcap antics and zany hijinks, you know, and if you add some really, really good little ribs that, you know, that they would punch there, that's the Marx Brothers. But the scene I always think of, and so did Colonel Jeff, a wonderful movie, A Night at the Opera. It's very funny, and folks, please, if you haven't seen it, just see it. All the Marx Brothers stuff is terrific, but The Night at the Opera has a scene where they're crossing from Europe to America, to New York, on a big fancy ocean liner, and they're in a stateroom there, the three Marx Brothers, and they're trying to figure this out and that out. Well, they get hungry then, and Harpo's falling asleep. The point is that they order a bunch of food, and before anything can not happen, suddenly everyone starts to come into the stateroom. They knock, knock, knock. Yeah, come in. Yeah, well, why not? I'm sure this was someone else. And he opens the door, and they play it so straight in the sense of that they're the Marx Brothers, for goodness sake. And there must be 16 or 17 people in that stateroom, and it's not a big stateroom. It's small. They keep coming in and coming in, knock on the door. Do you need any towels? No, come on in. And it just keeps getting funnier and funnier. And it is as, well, zany as it could possibly be. And at one point, the main subject of the, I think it's Mrs. Claypool, played by the great Margaret Dumont, and she finally knocks on the door and opens it, and everyone comes out, meaning tumbling out. And I mean everyone. I don't know how they blocked it and staged it, but I mean everyone in there comes tumbling out, literally tumbling. And I remember the first time seeing that and howling, just laughing. And I was a kid, it didn't matter. I've laughed every time I've seen it, which is a lot of times now. And folks, you know what? That's, I think, a great example of what are madcap antics and zany hijinks. Is anyone doing that now? Well, I don't think so. No. And I think of the old Warner Brothers cartoons. Yes, and I intentionally put the word old in there because, well, there are a lot of fine folks working, a lot of talented folks working today. But no, they're not the same at all, I'm sorry to say, as, well, Mel Blanc, as every great voice they had there, inventing them and inventing those characters, and especially, well, the number one, Bugs Bunny. But in all those, for goodness sake, the old Warner Brothers cartoons, they were sly. They always had a little bit of a wink in the eye and a little twinkle. And, buddy, I wonder, this looks like a mad boy or something like that. Whatever he said, whatever they wrote for Mel Blanc and whatever Mel Blanc added, good Lord. Now that's madcap and zany. Come on. And so, well, good question, Brad. But what exactly are madcap antics and zany hijinks, and do any movies today feature them? No, they don't, and I wish they did. And are there any madcap adventures anymore? I don't think so. If you do, folks, by the way, send them. Well, I'll give you the address to our website later. You know when. And please send us a note saying, yes, I think this. Because Colonel Jeff and I were trying to think, is there anything in the last 10 years that has been madcap and zany? And, well, I couldn't think of any. The last thing that I came up with, and Colonel Jeff too, was that it's a mad, 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 mad world. And that is, well, that was a wonderful movie. It's still terrific. What a cast. Come on. And I think that was madcap and zany and wonderful. But, well, remember, that was, 1961, 1962, something like that. So that's right there. That's, 57 years ago. So it's not as if it was made last week. In any case, good question, Brad, and I'll bet you're a little on the madcap and zany side yourself. And remember, that's a big compliment. And Howard Stone and his wife, Kat, got, a big honorable mention in the introduction there because he wrote in to say that since Larry was asking last week, as any fan of Alan Sherman knows, the plural of moose is meese. And you know what? He's right there. Boy, folks, that's another one, by the way. If you just, I think Alan Sherman's first album was My Son the Folk Singer, which is very funny right there. Instead of My Son the Doctor. Well, come on, you don't need an explanation for that. But his stuff is wonderful. And he was an advertising man, but what a talented singer, thinker, writer. Come on. So, a good one, Howard. He wrote that they saw me at a club in Queens about 7 years ago, and they weren't married yet, they were engaged, and they asked me to officiate at their wedding, which is fine with me, but I think that would be, what's the word I'm looking for? Illegal. In any case, the three of us had a few drinks after the show there, and since I had already done 2 shows that night and I was ready to go back to the hotel after a few drinks, I told them to always think of me as their slow uncle. So anyway, thanks, Howard. And thanks, Kat. And thanks to Brad Simpson for a terrific question. And by ButcherBox. That's right, folks. ButcherBox. I really like these folks. I want to thank ButcherBox, by the way, for supporting our podcast. This is a product perfectly tailored for the Larry Miller Drinking Society. Let me tell you how ButcherBox works. Choose from curated boxes including a mix of high-quality beef, chicken, and pork, or customize your own box. Each box is shipped with a carefully calculated amount of dry ice to ensure it remains frozen after it reaches your doorstep. ButcherBox delivers grass-fed and grass-finished beef, free-range organic chicken, and heritage breed pork. Cook with peace of mind knowing you're eating healthy, high-quality meat. This month, ButcherBox is offering finely ground beef that's clean and delicious. The beef consists of trimmings from the sirloin and chuck, which make it extremely versatile. It cooks fast, so it's perfect for quick weeknight dinners. I enjoyed the meat ButcherBox sent to me. I really did, and I can't wait to get my next delivery. For $20 off your first box, folks, and 2 pounds of free ground beef in every box for the life of your subscription, go to butcherbox.com/Larry and enter Larry at checkout. And that's $20 off your first box and 2 pounds of free ground beef in every box for the life of your subscription by going to butcherbox.com/Larry and entering Larry at checkout. Go now. Limited time offer. That stuff was pretty good, and I gave some to Colonel Jeff, in fact. It was very good stuff. Thanks to ButcherBox. And that brings me to my favorite part of the show, the joke of the week. I love the things Colonel Jeff finds, and I know we've had them before on there, but that's just so funny to me. On a bongo drum. Why is that funny? I don't know. I'm the last one to ever try to overanalyze things, but it's just great. In any case, this is a good one. I got a laugh out of this one, and so did Colonel Jeff. Fella goes into a small, quiet, dingy bar every night, every single night for 8 months. And it's always the same. He sits down at the bar and orders 3 beers. Not in a row, but he just to line them up right there. Bring them up 3 beers, and he has each one. He drinks them, and he drinks the second, and he drinks the third, and he stands up, smiles, says goodnight, tips his hat, and he leaves. Every night. And the bartender's saying to himself, boy, got to find out what this story is. This has got to be something here. And eventually he says to the guy, comes in again and orders the 3 beers, and he says to the guy, what's this about? Why do you do this? You order the 3 beers, I line them up for you, and you sit and you drink that, and it's just that, and then you go. And he says, well, my family has 3 brothers. I have 2 other brothers, and it's the 3 of us, the 3 boys, and we don't always know where the other one is. And 2 of them, the other fellas, are in the Army. So sometimes, well, they're on duty and they're in service there and in a war. And so I don't know where they are, and they can't write to me and say, here's where we are. So every night, the 3 of us agreed, every night we all go to a place and have 3 beers and think of the other 2 brothers. And the bartender says, well, that's kind of nice. All right, thanks. The guy leaves, and he comes in every night again. A couple of weeks later, though, he comes in and orders 2 beers, not 3. And the bartender puts the 2 out there, and the bartender thinks to himself, oh, boy, this doesn't look good. Maybe more than one of them is dead now. And he says to the guy, walks up and says, listen, I'm sorry to bug you here, but, I mean, why 2 beers tonight? Did one of your brothers pass away or something? And the guy says, oh, no, my wife made me quit drinking, so I'm just having beers for the other 2 guys. That's pretty good, isn't it? As always, if you like the jokes, you know what? It's like keeping good music going, folks. If you like the jokes, pass them on. Keep them going. Tell them to family or friends and or someone at work, because there's nothing better than keeping a good joke alive. And that brings me to my second favorite part of the show, the Poetry Corner. Lovely as always, that great string quartet. And I love reading a poem every week. I thought about that since I was a kid. I thought, boy, if I ever have a show, I'm gonna have something to do with poetry. And I think it's a wonderful thing also to keep alive. And this one is just wonderful. I hope you like it. It's by the great Ogden Nash, who was so witty and so interesting and so smart, but what a great wordsmith. Always wrote beautifully, and here's one I like a lot. It's titled, A Lady Who Thinks She Is 30, by Ogden Nash. Unwillingly Miranda wakes, feels the sun with terror. One unwilling step she takes, shuddering to the mirror. Miranda in Miranda's sight is old and gray and dirty. 29 she was last night. This morning she is 30. Shining like the morning star, like the twilight shining. Haunted by a calendar, Miranda is a-pining. Silly girl, silver girl, draw the mirror toward you. Time, who makes the years to whirl, adorned as he adored you. Time is timelessness for you, calendars for the human. What's a year or 30 to loveliness made woman? Oh, night will not see 30 again, yet soft her wing, Miranda. Pick up your glass and tell me then, how old is spring, Miranda? Isn't that lovely? He was always, well, so witty, and he has a lot. There's a book of his poems on my desk right now, and someone else you should familiarize yourself with. Sometimes they were just 4 lines long, but they're always smart and often very, very funny. I hope you like that one. We do here. And that brings me to my third favorite part of the show, the magic movie moment. There's nothing like a good movie, folks, and nothing like a great movie. And that's why I love this concept of the magic movie moment. This is a great one. To Sir with Love, from 1967, written and directed by James Clavell. Story by E.R. Braithwaite, and he wrote the book for it. Starring, oh, what a wonderful cast. Sidney Poitier, Judy Geeson, Lulu. It's all the actors are English because Sidney Poitier is playing someone from an English island who goes back to London to teach. He's applied for a job and as an engineer with the companies all over the place, hasn't gotten one yet, and he took this job in, well, the East End of London, and it's with some very tough, poor kids who are no fun to be with. They have no respect for anyone, and it's a great story of how Sidney Poitier, who plays Mr. Thackeray, is their teacher and starts, and how they, dance all around him, and with disrespect, and looking to really hurt him and make him sad, and ruin his time there. But Sidney Poitier finds the way through to them. And folks, it's a terrific movie because he gets to the point where he does that with the worst kids, the toughest kids, and they're in his class, and he teaches them the difference between good and evil. And the great lyrics to that song, sung by Lulu, "To Sir with Love." And Judy Geeson is wonderful in this and just beautiful. And the magic movie moment for me is the dance. After their year at school, they have a dance, and, well, it's not a fancy dance room. It's right in their school there. And they hang a couple of crepe ribbons. But you know what? Whatever they hang, it becomes beautiful because they became beautiful. And in this scene, they're dancing, and then Lulu gets up to sing the song "To Sir with Love," and then one of the other students comes forward, and they're just on the floor. He's standing there watching, and one of the other students brings him a gift they all got him. And that's a very big step forward. And she hands him the box, and Sidney Poitier, in case you didn't know, is a great actor. And he doesn't underact or overact. He takes this, and they start, even the toughest kid there, who hated him the most. It was a real rough gang leader. And even he starts shouting now, "Speech, sir, speech." And they all sound, "Speech." And he acts a great scene there, just coming back to them, looking at them, and they're looking at him. And he's seeing them as they've changed. And so are we. It was terrific casting and very, very good in hair and makeup and everything in wardrobe. I mean, these tough kids were given another chance and another look on life by him. And they know it, and he knows it, and we know it. It's a wonderful scene, and it's not overdone or underdone. It's just right. Please see that movie if you haven't. "To Sir with Love." And, well, you'll be glad you did. And I thought of that movie because the theme of it is very striking. That is, you know what? You don't have to do something fancy to feel fancy, to feel better than you used to feel. My wife and I, just 2 days ago, had our 26th anniversary. And it made me realize, well, I thought we'd go out to dinner or something, and the boys are out of the house at this point. We can't wait to see them again. One is at college, he's in his sophomore year, and the other, as I've mentioned, is a Marine on duty. And I thought to myself, well, why don't we just go out? I said to her, why don't we go to a dinner? And, that was about 2 p.m, and suddenly, well, you know how every day goes anyway. Suddenly, 2 becomes 5. And the day has slid away a little bit. And she said to me, you know what? And she was still in her pajamas. She'd been doing her work from the house that day. And I was still in sweatpants. And you know what? She said, frankly, I'm tired. Why don't I just make us something, and something nice, and that'll be our anniversary dinner. And I said, of course, for goodness sake, who wouldn't like that? And it made me think back. When you like someone, you ask her out. And I remember the first time I asked my wife now out, it was at the Improv, and here in Los Angeles, on Melrose. And boy, I had a crush on her. And I had asked her out, and she kind of hemmed and hawed, and I remember I was sitting at the big round table in the corner with some friends, other comics, and she went up the stairs, which were right next to the table there. So she kind of bounded up the steps a little bit and tripped on the steps. They had carpeting on them, but she tripped and fell a little bit, and her face was next to mine through the staircase bars, and she smiled, and I smiled, and she said, well, looks like I'm falling for you. And then she smiled and got up and went on her way up the stairs. And about 10 minutes later, I was going to go to the restroom, and I just saw her again. It was only a few feet from the table there, and I saw her again. I smiled at her, and I walked over, and I put my arms on her shoulders, and I said, "You know what? One day you are going to fall for me, and I'm going to put my arms around you and never let go." And I'll never forget her face. She looked at me very, very nicely, and just I looked at her, and she looked at me. And, well, you know what? You know how life goes. It may take a while if you're shy, but so you go on a first date, then you go on a second, and then suddenly you're going out. You see movies and cook each other, more or less terrible dinners, and you go shopping without knowing why. Most of dating, I think, is not even knowing why, except you start to care about each other. And, well, you take a trip or two together, a little short jaunt, and have a favorite restaurant. And we did, by the way, and it was an older Italian man who was the manager and the maitre d', and he was Italian, meaning from Italy, and he always used to take her hand. Well, we must have been in there 20 times, and every time he would take her hand and say, "Hello, princess." And she loved it, and I loved it. It's so, you can't say that unless you're from Italy. I don't know how you can. But in any case, so you like that. That's your favorite restaurant. And then, somehow, 2 years later, you buy an engagement ring. You take her to a nice place. You get down on one knee, propose, invite family and friends, take a nice honeymoon to a place far nicer than you ever go again, and make a home, write thank you notes, and in my case, never contribute an opinion to any kind of furniture you get again. But that's just part of marriage. What guy needs to be listened to who said, "Gee, I was hoping the curtains would reach the floor"? I wouldn't even know how to say that. And once a year after that, you have an anniversary, as you know. Well, as I told you yesterday, it was the day before, it was our 26th anniversary. And sure, the first few and the first 10 or so, you may go to a fancy hotel or take a trip, and you may buy her a nice necklace or a nice bracelet. That's all good. It's all very good. But this year, well, we didn't get to anything, and we've been, building out back here and a few things in the backyard we needed, and getting rid of this hunk of thing and digging up the other hunk of thing, and, doing something I don't understand at all. Again, that's not me, putting myself down. It's just, when the contractor says, "Well, what we're doing, remember, we had to go through here," and he mentions 9 things in a row that you don't understand. I don't understand. And I stopped him after 5 things and said, "Why are you doing this? You know how this works, right?" "Yes." "Well, then, good. You do it. I don't need to know. I'll trust you. You do it. And then if it doesn't come out right, well, I'll kill you." No, I didn't say that, But the point is that, as I said, I thought we might go to a nice restaurant for dinner, but it's been raining like cats and dogs, and as I said, she was still in her PJs, and I hadn't shaved and was still in my sweats. And she said, "You know what, I'm tired anyway. Why don't I just make us something?" And, well, that sounded good, and she did. And it was done about 6:30, and we both sat down in the kitchen with the dogs next to us, waiting and hoping. And we had the nicest meal. I set the table with our nice plates and silverware and napkins and filled 2 glasses with water. The food was terrific. She's a really good cook, and I was tired too, and we both just smiled at each other. And that was it. And that was enough. So, remember, what's the best part of marriage? You remember how you first asked her out. You remember the births of your kids and at the ball games you drove them to, how much money you spent on this and that, remembering how both of you got sick and scared that something was wrong with you, but it wasn't. And then when the kids got sick, how hoping and praying it was just a small thing, and it was. And when they got, banged up in sports, hoping it was a small thing, and they were. And remembering how you took a trip back to Hawaii one year and one of you peed into the creek at the hotel on the way back to the room. I'm not saying who it was, by the way. It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter which one. It could have been her, you know. Don't jump to conclusions. Oh, so you pee. We were walking over a little wooden bridge on the hotel grounds there. Now, it was a little curve. It was the bridge was only about 10 or 12 feet long. And well, all right, one of us peed into the little creek there. It was just 5 or 8 feet below the bridge. Okay, it was me. Fine. Happy now? Well, of course it was. And then there's no better way to remember all of these things than to have a quiet meal in your pajamas and smile at each other. And that's the truth. And then she went downstairs to her office to lie down and watch the housewife shows she likes. And I went into our bedroom to watch a movie, well, like the one I just described to you, To Sir with Love. Folks, there's nothing better than that. It's a good lesson to learn over and over again. Sure, you want to take a trip to Japan or something? Good luck, that's fine. Have a good time. But you know what? You want to go to a big fancy steak restaurant in Beverly Hills or something? Good, fine, also fine. But you know what? I don't need that. Do you? My wife didn't need it. Do you? And instead, she made a great meal, and we smiled at each other. And that's a pretty great 26th anniversary. I know it, and you know it. And we all know the same things. Homer is Homer, and Pluto is a planet. So remember, as always, if you walked out of bed today and had a job to go to and a home to come back to and someone there who cares about you, folks, the game's over and you've won. And I've never known something more true than that. Happy anniversary to all of you out there. And we'll see you next time.